Hey everyone, this is Kit from Kit's Cars. I'm here to give you a wrap up of the sports car news for the week ending in July 23rd. So first of all, the exciting news we've got is that Subaru has announced pricing on the 2022 BRZ. Now, I think that the fact that the BRZ even exists is a great thing. And the disappointing thing about the 2022 BRZ is that it weighs about 100 pounds more than the previous car, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it only got about 23 more horsepower. It's still a naturally aspirated motor, which is less than ideal, in my opinion. I really would have liked to seen this chassis given a motor that had some not only decent mid-range torque, but also some more tunability with the turbo motor. So even though the Subaru didn't do that, I'm still really happy that this car exists. And the good news is that Subaru announced pricing that's actually lower than the 2021 BRZ by almost by over $800, which is great. So weight is up bad. Styling, it looks okay. It kind of reminds me of the previous gen or the last Mazda RX-8, but it's a decent looking car. Has some more standard features, and the price is lower and still available with a manual transmission. Is still a fairly lightweight car at under 2,900 pounds. So glad to have this car on the market for car enthusiasts today, but a little disappointed that it managed to gain weight. But hey, it's cheaper, so can't complain too much, right? In other news this week, we have the new RS3 being announced. The RS3 is given a little bit more power, 6 or 7 horsepower more, depending on where you check, and no word on weight thus far. So we'll have to see. It looks like it still has the mandatory panoramic sunroof, which limits headroom. The interior looks a little bit nicer. It still has a lot of plastic in it, but for the price, it's not terrible. And certainly looks nice with the new ambient lighting. Not a whole lot of other changes, except for the big news in the new RS3 is that the Haldex-based all-wheel drive system is being replaced with a torque vectoring system that can send most of the torque or all of the torque to the rear, either of the rear wheels, which is cool. The other thing about the RS3 is that Audi rates it a little bit faster, and they've restyled it. So Audi has all the right equipment. It's got box flares. It's got a more advanced all-wheel drive system. It's got an updated interior. And they gave it this not super attractive, almost 100% grille front end. And then a frowny face for the rear. Well, can't have everything, you guess. And while this isn't actually sports car news, I do really like the Macan, and I give the Macan a pass, and we'll talk about it a little bit. While I haven't actually owned a Macan, I do really like them. I've gotten them as service loaners a few times, and I've driven a few more sporty Macans, and they're really great cars. They handle much more like a slightly tall hot hatch than they do an SUV. You could actually throw them around corners. But they do have enough space inside to easily hold people and stuff. So I give the Macan a little bit of a pass in sports cars news. And I think that they're decently fun cars. They certainly don't take the place of a lightweight sports car, but they do a pretty good job of being reasonably fun to drive. So Porsche is really shaking up the 2022 Porsche Macan lineup. They've basically taken the Macan Turbo and made it the Macan GTS. So it has the same 2.9 liter, 434 horsepower motor. And then they've taken the Macan GTS motor and put it in the Macan S. The nice thing is that it also gets a price reduction. The Macan Turbo did start at about 85,000. The Macan GTS now starts at 80,000. So it's a decent amount cheaper. The front end of the Macan and the rear end get another refresh. I think this is the second refresh that this car has gotten in its life cycle. I definitely like the new wheels. They kind of look like the wheels on the 718 Spider and GT4. The rear end changes look fine. I mean, it's a big plastic diffuser, looks aggressive, and still has the light bar across the back, which is cool and looks good. The roof spoiler looks a little more aggressive, but the front end, especially on the GTS, gets this all black, huge grille treatment again. Guess this is just the new thing and what we're going to get with the cars nowadays. But I actually like the look of the Macan S better because it has some more paintwork in the front grille. It breaks up that huge expanse of blacked out toothy grin. In other news this week, Tesla has finally released its subscription for full self-driving, which is great because instead of having to pay $10,000 up front for a full self-driving FSD, which actually is not full nor is self-driving today, it really just gives you the ability to summon, do lane changes on the freeway, and then the navigate on autopilot functionality. Full FSD is in beta. Lots of people have gotten the beta, so it's good for them. But this allows people who want just a month of FSD for long trips or something like that to try it out without spending the full amount up front, which sounds great, but a bunch of people are all honked off about it because they're being told that their autopilot computers need to be upgraded in order for them to start the subscription. And contrary to what Tesla said when the Model 3 came out, that all the cars will be capable of full self-driving, Tesla's actually gone back on that and originally told people, hey, you got to pay $1,500 for us to upgrade your FSD computer from the version 2.5 with the NVIDIA chips to the in-house chips in version 3. Unfortunately, Tesla told these customers when they purchased the car that they'd have the ability to enable full self-driving with the hardware on the car. So that's a little bit too bad. And we've gotten people upset about it. Tesla in response has lowered the price for the autopilot computer upgrade to $1,000. And there's a new subscription tier for people that have enhanced autopilot that paid for the upgrade to enhanced autopilot to FSD for $99 a month, except this buys you absolutely nothing today. There's no capabilities in FSD that are not in enhanced autopilot today. So that's a little bit of a disappointment. And I'm sure the extra $1,000 to start the subscription is not going to be horrible, but it certainly has the people who were promised that FSD would work on their car up in arms about it. We'll see how Tesla responds. Usually Tesla has been pretty responsive to these kinds of things in the past, and hopefully they'll do the same in the future. And the last piece of news for this week is that the configurator for the CT5V has gone live, and Cadillac is allowing people to configure their cars. Oddly enough, the people who put down deposits on the early ones have not been contacted to actually order their cars, so I don't actually know whether the order banks are open or not. But the Cadillac has a pleasing array of different colors. There's a trendy green, there's a few different blues, lots of grays, which aren't super exciting, but there's a nice bright orange and a nice red. So excited to see that. And also some more variety in the interior. The interior of the car looks pretty nice. I mean, it's pretty generic from the front view, but there are some pretty cool looking seats available. The full buckets actually look decently nice and distinguished. There's a decent amount of bolstering in the back too. So I'd certainly want to liven the interior up with some color there. In terms of packages, man, there's almost $10,000 of carbon fiber. And the carbon fiber packages don't add all that much. So you end up with a $9,300 carbon fiber package that has a slightly bigger rear spoiler, some rear valence extensions, a front carbon splitter that looks like the same shape as the standard one that'll get ripped off the first driveway you go over. Yeah, I'm not sure I would order it with a carbon fiber package. The driver's assistant package is relatively well priced, but won't work with the manual transmission. I guess that's to be expected, but That's too bad. Parking package with the surround view does work with the manual. The only other thing that I thought was interesting was, hey, you can finally color the brake calipers. So I can order bronze brake calipers. Okay, here's what I actually find funny about this car is that the actual Blackwing engine that Cadillac produced was a dual overhead cam V8 that was 4.2 liters, and it was used in the CT6V between 2018 and 2020. The interesting thing about this motor is the first clean sheet V8 motor that they'd made in quite some time. In fact, it was the first clean sheet motor since the North Star V8 that we all knew and loved. But ironically, the CT5V Blackwing doesn't use the Blackwing V8. It's the 6.2 liter LT4 V8 with a supercharger making 668 horsepower. And sure, I won't turn down a bunch more power, but I just find it a little bit funny that the pushrod V8 that has been powering cars in some way, shape, or form since the late 50s is still what's going to be in their most modern sports sedan. But yeah, I'm decently excited about this car. It's the last large sedan available with a manual transmission, and GM is pretty good about making their cars reasonably track ready, although don't tell that to the C7 owners who got to enjoy limp mode in their cars when they first came out. But I'm pretty excited about this car. I think it'll be a good balance to some of the cars in this space, such as the E63 and M5 and their competition. So glad to see this, glad to see it available with a manual, and hoping that, wait, that looks like an Altima. I guess there's nothing wrong with looking like an Altima unless you're trying to be a $100,000 premium luxury sports sedan. It's available for actual ordering soon. All right, well, that's the news for cars, sports cars this week. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you have any comments on these cars, please leave them in the comments. Thanks.